Hello and welcome back to another battle on the NTW3 mod for Napoleon TotalWar. Today I'm playing the 9-point Russia army, 9-point Polsha. I've also got another teammate who is playing the same army as me, so it gets a bit confusing trying to figure out whose units are whose. Also playing with a UK, and I believe the other army was Austria. I will stand corrected on that though, however. So yeah, we're just seeing out the initial deployments at the moment. You can see my glorious army moving forward. I've gone for a melee build today, so I'm really hoping to not end up in a line fight. I have brought 2 units that are decent at shooting. Here you can see the French setting up on their left flank, on our right, just to the right of the village of Eylau. So my teammate, that is, you see that, forming up to engage the French at the start. I'm still in the way back. It's going to take me absolutely forever to get there. I've got quite a few L2s in this army, so I'm a bit of a lumbering mass trying to get up to the front. But you can see that the French are beginning to set their defensive lines. They've got a lot of cavalry, so it's a bit scary at this point in the game, seeing that they've got the cav superiority in this part. Here we can see the French deployments around the town of Eylau. They have a lot of 12-pounders set up around the place, so that was the main theme of this game, was picking the spot that's got the least resistance in regards to artillery. As you can see, there's another set there. I think on our right flank here, the French left, they had something silly like 9 guns, and they were all 12-pounders. There's another one. You can see them all setting up in position, and this flank is looking a little bit scary. Here we go, another look at the flank and the absolutely ridiculous amount of French firepower that is being deployed. Although something can be said about the terrain that they've chosen to deploy the guns on. It's quite bumpy, and a few of the shots were actually bouncing off the ground, not making it onto target. So that's quite interesting. Anyway, as you can see, the French left, or our right flank, has got that insane amount of artillery deployed, so I'm choosing to send my army into the town of Eylau. Knowing it's a melee army, I'm thinking it's going to perform better in the town rather than on this flank. And being that L2 army is a lumbersome mass, so it's taken me quite a lot of time to get into the action here. This is my teammate up here, and he's choosing to withdraw. You'll see the bodies of the Russian soldiers strewn about. There you go, they're getting sent to space. Again, just an absolutely ridiculous amount of firepower on that French left, so it was almost suicide to choose to attack that. Here's another angle of the French left. You can see the 3 sets of 3 guns there, absolutely hammering away. Here's a snapshot of our left flank, the French right. You can see UK had also chosen to withdraw. We were actually discussing in the chat where we should apply the pressure, and it was decided that we would advance on our left. But upon nearing the enemy, Britain has sighted just this absolute ridiculous amount of guns on his side as well, so he's chosen to withdraw. And here we go, here we see the army on its advance into Eylau, a scene of chaos before the real chaos has even begun. And you'll also notice that they've set up even more guns, so we've got 2 batteries here. Things are looking quite dire. It's obvious that the French have chosen a strategy of sitting still and pecking us off with their guns. Here we go, so I'm getting the army into position to begin the attack. I'm trying to move up this screen of skirmishers to mask the cannons. I'm hoping that I can sit them in front of the artillery and sort of pick them off without having to put any real massive troops in front of them. Although I do believe I ended up shooting my skirmishers in the back, so that strategy obviously didn't work out very well. But just from this shot here, you can see the absolute mass of troops that is descending on this town, and the chaos that was about to ensue definitely could not have been avoided with such a huge amount of people in one place. So you'll see my skirmishers are pinking off at the guns, hopefully. And my soldiers have decided just to march straight through their skirmisher formations, zero regard for taking any fire. The French seem to be stuck in deployment here. They've not really got any lines set out. It's not quite clear what their defensive plans are here. I'm just really hoping that those guns just to the left there don't turn around and start firing canister into my men. So it's quite a precarious situation, seeing how many guns there are. But for some reason, they've not started shooting at me yet, so things are looking good for now. Trying my best to advance the cavalry so it can be thrown into the oncoming melee when needed. The French again choosing a really odd deployment, just leaving their soldiers strewn about the streets of this little town. And there we go, in goes the cavalry to try and take those guns. However, the French cavalry that was sent to counter it is actually putting up quite staunch resistance, so I wasn't quite able to get the guns straight away without a little bit of a fight. You can see just the pure mass marching up still. However, my cav is putting quite a few French units on the red line. It's doing quite well. Although it is just cheap cavalry, so I'm expecting it to start wavering at some point. It's also worth noting that the micro was very tricky at this point in the game. I'm trying my best not to run units through each other, but obviously when you get so many people in close proximity to each other, it's quite difficult to avoid that. And here I am just doing my best to throw these units into melee. A lot of the French troops here are already wavering quite badly, so I'm just exploiting the momentum that's been built.
The men are fatigued, sir, and must rest.
You'll see that the French are forming up behind the town now, pulling out. This French formation in front of me here is redlining without actually receiving any fire, so that's really encouraging to see. I'm just moving up the troops, ready to get thrown into that melee. Here you can see the French are trying to stem the flow of these Russians by occupying the holes between the buildings, but it's not working. I'm forcing them back. Yeah, again, it is becoming a bit of a micro nightmare with the amount of men just stood around. And here we go, throwing the cavalry in for the guns. The front ranks dropping dead on the way in, but they do make it to those guns. It does look like some French lancers tried something other. They committed the horrible sin of pulling through their own units, which is a big no-no. The majority of these French units are redlining. Morale is wavering very badly, so I'm not expecting much more resistance. This is the point of the game where it becomes an absolute bloodbath. Here we've got French troops advancing despite wavering. We've got some just running away, others stood there, not quite sure what to do. You'll see the French down the road are still sat there. They've just stayed there the whole game and sort of repulsed the UK, but now they're thinking about closing in back on the town, seeing their allies being routed en masse. There we go. So a lot of French troops pulling back now, trying to save what they've got left. So I'm doing my best to keep up with them, to keep pushing them back, trying to take as many out before they get back to safety. And you'll just see the absolute chaos. Hundreds of men, possibly even thousands, just littered across the ground. Men running through the streets for their lives. Absolute disaster of a defense. Here we go. We can see that the French on our right flank, the French left, have decided to sit there with their enormous amount of guns. They've not attacked. They've not come to the aid of their allies, who have been routed in the town. This is quite possibly why they ended up losing the game, is because their allies on the flanks just sat there, didn't help. One of the main determining factors, I'd say, for how battles go in this game is simply down to the concentration of force. It's whoever can put the most men in a concentrated spot against the enemy, outnumber them, tends to be the side that wins. So a lot of strategy in this mod in particular just tends to be
has fallen to the enemy.
Who can sort of move the majority of their men without being seen, and descend upon the enemy in a wild fury. So at this point, I'm not quite sure what's going on. I'm thinking that this player I'm opposing right now has crashed, possibly. It seems like quite an odd decision just to stream down off the defensible positions and throw yourselves into melee. So it is looking like a crash, although I could be wrong. It's just hard to tell, to be honest. But yeah, the French come down off the heights from the church, stream down into the road, and throw themselves into a violent melee. And at this point, the game has become complete chaos. I can no longer tell what is going on. Just try my best not to blob units up and try and stick to the rules as much as possible. Although, as I'm sure you'll see, it's quite difficult.
Our men are running for.
At this point, I'm just thankful that I have a melee-focused army. Not really brought any units with good shooting stats. Everyone's just got nice melee skills. So all I can hope for here is to survive the blob, the French blob.
This building has fallen to the enemy.
Here we go. Another shot of the pure chaos that is unfolding. You'll actually see in the background that the French are advancing on the Austrians. interesting decision. Perhaps they sensed that their time was coming to an end and they needed to make some sort of play if they were going to turn things around. Although honestly at this point, too many French had been routed. The game was essentially over. As you can see, all that the French really have left is this armoury building and their left flank, which was never engaged. Having spent so much on artillery as well, we weren't really expecting too much resistance in the way of infantry, simply because they couldn't have had the money to spend. Here you can see my glorious soldiers entering into melee for the armoury, while the rest of my army streams around the left to put pressure on the French rear. At this point, the game is much decided. It is over. The only thing left to see is how long the French can hold out against the oncoming Russian onslaught. Here we go. So I just decided to throw my men straight in. He's put his men into square, so going straight in for the melee. I'm not too worried about losing units here. I've got so many left. I'll just keep throwing them in, regardless of if they get routed or not. And here you go. Here's the end of the game. Just cleaning up the rest of the French troops on their left. So yeah, if you enjoyed the video today, make sure to hang around. I'm sure I'll be posting things of a similar nature in the future. If you've got any feedback, make sure you jump down in the comments, let me know. I'm sure there's plenty of things I can improve on. But thanks for watching the video.